I think I didn't do anything wrong, just gave myself a chance to feel wanted again. All I did was post my profile online, and now I'm staring at legal documents my husband handed me that same evening. I still don't get what the big deal is. He always said I deserved better. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The kitchen felt suffocating that Tuesday morning as I watched Elias methodically prepare Sophie's lunch. Everything he did was so predictable, so routine. Peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, juice box, the same thing every day for 7 years of marriage. You know, other husbands surprise their wives sometimes, I said, stirring my coffee harder than necessary. Take them out, make them feel special. Elias glanced up from the sandwich assembly line. We went to dinner last weekend, Vespera, and I brought you flowers on... That chain restaurant hardly counts as dinner, I cut him off. And grocery store flowers. Really? I shook my head, watching his shoulders slump slightly. Good. Maybe now he'd understand how neglected I felt. What would you like me to do differently? He asked quietly, that same patient tone that drove me crazy. Why couldn't he just know? Why did I have to spell everything out? A real man would figure it out, I muttered, grabbing my purse. His jaw tightened at that, but he said nothing. Typical. That evening, while Elias read Sophie her bedtime story in the next room, I found myself scrolling through dating apps on my phone. Just looking, I told myself. Just seeing what was out there. The profile creation was simple. Recent photo, brief description about seeking genuine connection and real passion. I left my marital status deliberately vague. The first message came within minutes. Jake, 33, fitness instructor, confident smile in his profile picture. You look like someone who knows what she wants, he wrote. My heart raced as I typed back. When was the last time someone had said something like that to me? When had Elias ever made me feel this alive? Mummy, come say goodnight, Sophie called from her room. I quickly closed the app, but not before Jake's response appeared. Would love to get to know you better. Coffee tomorrow? As I walked toward Sophie's room, I caught Elias watching me, his brow furrowed. Everything okay? You seem different lately. I'm fine, I said, forcing a smile. Just tired of the same routine, you know. He nodded, but his eyes lingered on my phone screen. I clutched it tighter against my chest. The medical office where I worked as an administrator buzzed with its usual mid-morning energy, but I could barely concentrate on the appointment scheduling. My phone kept lighting up with messages from Jake, each one making my pulse quicken. You're glowing today, my sister Mara commented as she passed my desk. She worked as a nurse in the same practice, which usually felt convenient but today made me nervous. Just had a good night's sleep, I lied, quickly minimizing Jake's latest message about wanting to see me smile in person. During my lunch break, I escaped to the parking lot to respond properly. Jake's messages were everything Elias's communication wasn't: spontaneous, flirtatious, exciting. He called me gorgeous and intriguing. When had my husband last used words like that? This is just harmless chatting, I told myself as I typed back enthusiastically. Everyone does this. It's not like I'm actually doing anything wrong. But when Mara appeared at my car window, I nearly dropped my phone. Who are you texting that's got you looking like a teenager? She asked, sliding into the passenger seat uninvited. Just a friend, I said, angling my phone away from her. Vespera. Her voice carried that warning tone she'd used since we were kids. Please tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing. You're being dramatic. It's just messages. Elias wouldn't even care. He barely notices me anymore anyway. Mara's expression hardened. Are you listening to yourself? You have a husband, a daughter. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, I snapped, that I deserve to feel attractive and wanted. When was the last time Elias made me feel special? When did he last really see me? So you're looking for that from strangers online? He's not a stranger. His name is Jake, he's a fitness instructor, and he actually appreciates me. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Mara stared at me in disbelief. Vespera, this is insane. End this now before you destroy your family. But I was already committed. That afternoon, I agreed to meet Jake for coffee after work. The thrill of anticipation made the rest of my shift fly by. What I didn't know was that at home, Elias had decided to use our shared iPad to order Sophie's birthday present. The message notifications that popped up on the screen made him go very still. Screenshot after screenshot, he methodically documented everything he found. Saturday evening brought our monthly dinner with Elias's parents, Linda and Gerald, plus a few close friends. I'd spent extra time on my appearance, choosing a dress that showed off the figure Jake had complimented in his messages. You look lovely, dear, Linda said when they arrived, though her smile seemed strained. She'd been cooler toward me lately, though I couldn't imagine why. As we gathered in the living room for drinks, I felt restless, electric. My phone buzzed with a message from Jake, and I discreetly checked it under the table. Thinking about you tonight. Can't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow, our first real date. Vespera's been quite distracted lately, I heard Linda comment to Gerald in the kitchen. Poor Elias seems to be handling everything alone. Poor Elias. The phrase irritated me. If he seemed overwhelmed, maybe he should step up instead of just quietly accepting everything. During dinner, the conversation turned to career ambitions. Perfect opening. Well, Elias has always been content with the status quo, I said with a laugh that didn't quite mask the edge in my voice. Some people are just naturally comfortable with mediocrity. The table went quiet. Elias continued eating, but his knuckles were white around his fork. I think Elias has done very well for himself, Linda said sharply. Supporting his family, being a devoted father. Oh, I didn't mean anything bad, I backtracked, though I could see I'd hit my mark. It's just that some men are more ambitious, more passionate about life, you know. Our friend Tom shifted uncomfortably. Elias landed that big consulting contract last month. That's pretty ambitious. Did he? I feigned surprise, though of course I knew. He doesn't talk about work much, probably doesn't want to bore me with the details. Another message from Jake lit up my phone. I couldn't help but smile as I read it. Something amusing? Gerald asked pointedly. Just a funny meme my sister sent, I lied smoothly. The evening deteriorated from there. Linda made increasingly sharp comments about appreciating what you have, while I grew more defensive and cutting in return. Sophie, sensing the tension, clung to Elias's side, her usual chatter replaced by worried silence. After everyone left, Elias helped Sophie get ready for bed, while I cleaned up, my phone buzzing constantly with Jake's messages. He wanted to meet tonight instead of tomorrow. The spontaneity thrilled me. Why have you been so angry at me lately? Elias asked when he returned to the kitchen. His voice was soft, tired. What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong, I said, already reaching for my purse. That's the problem. You never do anything at all. Where are you going? Out. I need air. I paused at the door. Don't wait up. The look in his eyes as I left, hollow, defeated, should have stopped me. Instead, it fueled my justification. See? This is what I was talking about. No fight, no passion. A real man would have demanded I stay. The downtown cafe Jake had chosen was trendy, dimly lit, nothing like the family-friendly restaurants Elias preferred. Jake was already waiting, and seeing him in person made my breath catch. Tall, confident, with an easy smile that made me feel like the most interesting woman in the room. Even more beautiful than your photos, he said, standing to greet me. When had Elias last called me beautiful? We talked easily, about fitness, travel, dreams. Jake had stories about rock climbing in Colorado, teaching yoga retreats in Costa Rica. His life seemed so vibrant compared to my suburban routine. "So tell me about your situation," he said after we'd ordered our second round of drinks. "Your profile was a little vague about your availability." "I'm married," I admitted, watching his expression carefully. "But it's complicated. We're more like roommates at this point. He doesn't really see me anymore." Jake nodded sympathetically. "That's rough. How long has it been like that?" "Years," I exaggerated. "He's just so passive, so content with boring. A real man would fight for his woman, you know, would make her feel desired, appreciated. And he doesn't do that. Never. I could disappear tomorrow and he'd probably just adjust his routine accordingly." The words felt true as I said them, though somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered Elias's face when I'd left tonight. Jake reached across the table to touch my hand. "That's his loss. You're vibrant, passionate. You deserve someone who sees that." My phone buzzed, a voicemail from Sophie. "Mummy, when are you coming home? Daddy made popcorn for movie night, but he looks sad. Are you okay?" I quickly silenced the phone, but Jake had noticed my expression change. "Kids?" he asked. "One daughter, 7. I tried to keep my voice light. "She's fine, just clingy sometimes." Jake's demeanor shifted slightly. "Look, Vespera, you're amazing, but this is getting complicated. I don't usually get involved with married women, especially ones with kids." "But you said—" "I said you deserve better, and you do, but maybe you should work that out with your husband first." He signaled for the check. This could get messy for everyone involved. The date ended abruptly, Jake giving me a polite hug before disappearing into the night. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at my phone, before finally driving home. Elias was waiting in the living room, still dressed, a manila folder on the coffee table in front of him. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Sit down, Vespera." Elias's voice carried a weight I'd never heard before. The folder on the coffee table seemed to pulse with menace. "It's late. Can't this wait until—" "Sit. Down." I perched on the edge of the armchair, as far from him as possible. "What's this about?" He opened the folder with deliberate precision. Inside were printouts, screenshots of dating profiles, message threads, timestamps. My heart stopped. "You went through my phone," I gasped, immediately shifting to offense. "That's a complete violation of privacy, Elias. You had no right." "Our shared iPad," he corrected calmly. "The one you forgot syncs with your phone. The one I used to order Sophie's birthday present and found messages from Jake lighting up the screen." I stared at the evidence spread before me. Weeks of flirtation, plans for dates, my complaints about my boring husband laid bare in black and white. "This isn't what it looks like," I started, but even to my own ears, the words sounded hollow. "What does it look like, Vespera? Because to me, it looks like my wife created a dating profile, called me mediocre and passionless to strangers, and went on a date tonight while our daughter asked when Mommy was coming home. I didn't sleep with him," I said desperately. "Nothing physical happened. It was just talking, just feeling appreciated for once." Elias's laugh was bitter. "Just talking, just humiliating me to strangers online, just abandoning our daughter for dates with other men." He gathered the papers. "Just destroying our marriage. You're overreacting. This is exactly why I caught myself, but it was too late. Why you what? Why you needed to find a real man?" He quoted my own words back to me. "Because I'm too boring, too passive, too devoted to our family." I never said devoted. You told him I wouldn't even notice if you disappeared, that I'd just adjust my routine. His voice cracked slightly. "Do you have any idea how that feels? To discover that the woman you love, the mother of your child, thinks so little of you?" Guilt twisted in my stomach, but I pushed it away. "Maybe if you'd shown more interest in me, more passion, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." "So this is my fault." "I didn't say that." "You've been saying it for months, Vespera." Every criticism, every comparison to other men, every time you've made me feel small in front of our friends and family." He stood up. "I kept thinking if I just tried harder, if I was more patient, more understanding, you'd remember why you married me." "Elias, I'm done trying." He pulled another set of papers from the folder. "These are separation documents. I've already moved our joint savings to an account in my name only. I'll be staying at my parents' house starting tonight." The papers landed in front of me with a soft thud. Legal separation, irreconcilable differences. The words blurred together. "You can't be serious, over some messages, over one coffee date, over the complete disrespect for our marriage, over the public humiliation, over choosing to betray our family instead of talking to me about whatever problems you thought we had. What about Sophie? You can't just take her away from me." "I'm not taking her anywhere, but I am documenting everything. The dating profile, the messages, the way you've prioritized strangers over your own daughter." His voice was steady, controlled. "My lawyer says I have a strong case for primary custody." The room spun. This couldn't be happening. Not over something so small, so harmless. "People will understand," I said frantically. "When I tell them my side, how neglected I felt, how you drove me to this." "Go ahead and tell them." Elias picked up his overnight bag from behind the couch. "Tell them how your husband worked 2 jobs to support your family. How he did bedtime stories every night, planned family vacations, brought you flowers every Friday for 7 years. Tell them how that drove you to betray him." He paused at the door. "I loved you, Vespera. I would have done anything to make you happy. All you had to do was ask." The door closed behind him with a quiet click, leaving me alone with the legal documents and the weight of what I'd just lost. 3 weeks later, I sat across from my lawyer in his sterile downtown office, trying to salvage what remained of my life. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following month, and the evidence against me kept mounting. "Your husband's legal team is thorough," my attorney admitted, flipping through depositions. "They have witness statements from your sister, your in-laws, even some of your friends. The dating profile screenshots, the messages with this Jake person, documentation of your behavior at social gatherings." "That's all taken out of context," I protested. "I was unhappy in my marriage. I was seeking emotional support. From dating apps, while married, while responsible for a 7-year-old child." He removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Mrs. Winch, I have to be honest. Unless we can demonstrate that your husband was abusive or neglectful." "He wasn't," I admitted quietly. Even in my anger, I couldn't fabricate that lie. "Then our options are limited." I'd tried controlling the narrative on social media, posting carefully crafted messages about growing apart and mutual differences. But the responses weren't what I'd expected. Friends who knew us both started asking pointed questions. Why had I never mentioned being unhappy? Why were there photos of Elias at every school event, every family gathering, looking like the devoted father he'd always been? Mara had been particularly brutal in her judgment. "You threw away a good man for what, Vespera? For some fantasy. Elias never cheated, never lied, never put himself before his family, and you repay that by humiliating him online." Even my mother, usually my staunchest defender, seemed uncertain. "Maybe you could work things out, dear, for Sophie's sake. Elias has always been such a good provider." But it was too late for reconciliation. Jake had blocked my number after I'd tried reaching out one desperate evening. "I told you this would get messy," his final message read. "I don't get involved with married women. Find someone else for your midlife crisis." The judge's ruling came down on a grey Thursday morning. Primary custody to Elias, with supervised visitation for me, until I could demonstrate stable decision-making and commitment to the child's welfare. The house would be sold, assets divided, but the bulk of Sophie's care and support would remain with her father. The court finds that Mr. Winch has consistently prioritized the child's needs and maintained a stable home environment, the judge read. Mrs. Winch's recent choices demonstrate a pattern of prioritizing personal gratification over family responsibilities. As I signed the final papers, my hands shaking, I caught sight of Elias and Sophie through the courthouse window. She was holding his hand, chattering about something that made him smile. The first genuine smile I'd seen from him in months. They walked toward his car together, my daughter, and the man I'd convinced myself wasn't enough. The man who'd loved me faithfully for 7 years, while I'd searched for something better. The man who'd quietly, methodically, legally protected himself and our child when I'd chosen betrayal over communication. My phone was silent in my purse. No messages from Jake, no supportive calls from friends, no one asking how I was handling the divorce. I'd gotten exactly what I'd asked for, freedom from my boring, predictable life. But as I watched Elias buckle Sophie into her car seat with the same patient care he'd shown every day of her life, I realized I'd misunderstood what a real man actually looked like. A real man didn't abandon his responsibilities for excitement. He didn't humiliate his spouse for validation from strangers. He didn't choose fantasy over family. A real man had been there all along, and I'd thrown him away for a coffee date with someone who couldn't even be bothered to text me back. The irony was perfect, in the cruelest possible way. I'd posted my profile looking for a real man, and a real man had indeed dumped me that same evening. My husband, who'd finally realized he deserved better than someone who couldn't appreciate what she had until it was gone. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.